Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, October 3rd. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream, where we take a look at the ES and the NQ from a two-way auction process using Market Profile to read that process. Okay, so what are we looking at for today? Well, there's a couple of different ways that you could choose to look at the market this morning, or I'm sorry, look at the market from Friday. You could look at Friday's trade as a continuation of the new momentum to the downside. We broke out of a balance area on Thursday, and so you could see Friday as just a continuation of that momentum, a continuation of that excess. We had lower highs and lower lows. The value area was engulfing the previous day's value, so it's not a perfect sign of a trend lower. So the alternative is you could see it as perhaps we're just in a larger balance area, right? Maybe we just hadn't quite made the balance area lows in here, and we had to come down to make them in here. If that is the case, if we were really just testing a balance area low in here, then this morning should be the look above and fail. So closing down here on Friday and then opening back up above what would be that balance area low area is a look below and fail. So if the market wants to go higher, it should do so first thing this morning. Okay. We're opening right smack dab inside the middle of the previous day's range. So of course, what are we expecting? Chop, right? We're expecting the market to just grind up and down for the first few hours this morning, trying to figure out where it wants to go. But if it wants to go higher, it's going to push above the overnight high, get through this resistance, come back down, turn that into support. So that's the area around 3650. It'll push through that resistance, turn it into support. If they can then get up above yesterday's high, Friday's high, I would then be looking at it as a potential balance area play, in which case I would be looking to long to the opposite end of balance, 3725. But I would not trust that conceptually unless we were able to push above this node and come back down and find support there. What I think is more likely is that we will get continuation lower. So we'll get our chop this morning, we'll grind up and down, but they won't be able to get above and stay above here. They won't be able to get above and stay above the overnight high. I would need to see those two things to look to target the trade to the opposite end of balance. Otherwise, my assumption is a continuation of the breakout to the downside and more momentum lower. Okay. So I would describe myself going into the morning as more neutral to bearish, but pretty neutral, waiting to see how the market handles the chop. Okay. We got a lot of support around Friday's lows, as well as up here around the base of the spike from Friday. So lots of reasons for the market to just chop around and grind around this morning. As far as continuation to the downside, getting back into the spike would get me bearish. And then I'd be looking to break through this support for further downside continuation. But right now, I think we're probably just going to get some chop for a couple hours. So let's get ready for that. All right, overnight inventory is net long, being that they pulled us up all the way from Friday's low. So the first order of business is a counter auction to try to absorb some of that overnight activity to the downside. So if they were to open and immediately push above the overnight high, that would be a little bit bullish, but is less likely. If you have not yet, please consider smashing that thumbs up button. I sure would appreciate. Those likes really help out the channel, especially if they come in first thing in the morning. It's sort of your way of telling YouTube, hey, we think this is cool. You may want to show this to other people. I like very much. Thumbs up. And I think this is cool. Thanks, Ed. Good morning to Pavel, Scooball, Ryan, Jeremy, TV, Nap, Lord MacGyver. Greetings, Lord. From Greece. Good to see you. Nap, good morning. John Lash is here. RK, Hal R, Fighter Pilot The Shaw, and RK Leon. Welcome, welcome. Johnny Stellan. T-Wark. Yoda is gaming. Gaming Yoda is. Kotik, good morning to you. 2 questions. Do we care much about the emergency Fed meeting at 11:30? Do we care much about the ISM manufacturing PMI 30 minutes after open? Do we care? No, not really. I'm glad you told us about it. It's good to be aware of it, but we don't care. If it's going to cause something to happen, it'll break the same support and resistance that we're looking at either way, whether it happens because of news or otherwise. Invictus Trader, credit Susie, first bank to possibly fail. I didn't know there were banks about to fail. That's bad. That's not a good thing. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming out this morning. All the more reason for chop. But it's not FOMC level movement, right? No, not at all. The reason the FOMC gets the movement it does is because everyone's anticipating it. Everyone is sitting there with their finger on the trigger, desperate to get into a trade. And so you get those violent moves. Scooball, can we look at the queue? We certainly can. Exactly the same as the ES. Friday could be read either way because value area engulfed the previous day's value. Actually, maybe even been higher. Yeah, overlapping to higher. So again, to me, it looks like a break out of balance, a continuation of the trend lower. But it could be a balance area. So same as the ES. If they can get above the overnight high, we can look for continuation. But until then, I think we're going to head lower today. Let me just turn these off. So as far as the chop is concerned, I would look for resistance around the opening price when we come back up and test it again. Support. Pretty much where it just found it, like 11,055, and then down around the point of control from the overnight, 11,985. But of course, once we push below Friday's low, things start to get much more bearish, right? You get resistance there. It's a sign they want to take the market lower. Let's look at the Q and the daily. Let's get some perspective here. Yep. It looks pretty bearish. Oh, I'm on the weekly. That's why. I was kind of confused there. There we go. Yeah, that looks like a breakout of balance to me on the Q. Mark, far more orderly selling, no panic. Yeah, I would describe this as just the overnight activity. So remember, the overnight traders were net long. For them, the market opened down here and it closed up here. So we know more of the traders had to be long than short. This kind of just feels like they're like, oh, okay, we're not going to make anything. They were hoping we would continue it higher, and we didn't. So now they're just kind of slowly getting out of their trades while new day traders are getting in and picking each other's pockets. This feels very much like a chop zone. All right, testing that first support. This node right here from Friday. I would also say we have terrible taper at the high, which is another reason for chop. Another reason to head back up there. Mark, you mentioned you saw an interview last week that was scary. Can you share the link? Yeah, I'll look it up. I can't do it right now, obviously, because I'm laser focused on the market. But yeah, when the market cools down later in the day, I'll post that link. It was one of the guys from Bridgewater. And essentially his thesis, and of course they are experts at using history to predict the future. And his perspective was that the market is misunderstanding what's happening right now. That they think the worst of it is behind us, and that what we have priced into the market right now is just, expected future earnings, assuming that the worst is behind us, they think that it's just begun. They think it's going to be a snowball effect and things are just going to keep falling apart. He also said something that I found really interesting. Was he was talking about, for those of you that aren't aware, if you've never read Ray Dalio's book Principles, the way they run Bridgewater is kind of an unusual way to like run a company. It's too complex for me to explain right now, but the long and the short of it is they just approach information very differently. And what they do is they use history to plan for the future. So they always know, based on what's happening right now, they know what is the most likely outcome because they've seen, what happened when this happened in the early 1900s, in the 1800s, in the 1700s. Like they literally look at history in this amazing way to recognize patterns. And anyway, what he was talking about was he said something like, what makes us different from everyone else is because we've already mapped everything out using historical context, whenever something is happening in real time in the market, we don't have to waste any time or energy trying to figure out what's happened. So what we do as a firm is we simply focus on where are there holes in our understanding. So if we think, inflation and war in Ukraine and this and that, if we think it's going to lead to X, Y, and Z, we don't have to worry about what's going to happen. We're just going to assume, we're going to trade, we're going to position ourselves for X, Y, and Z. And then we can come into the office every day and just try to poke holes in that narrative, right? So instead of trying to understand what the market is doing, they already have the understanding and they're like questioning it all day, every day. They're looking at the data and they're saying, if what we think is going to happen was going to happen, is this how the data would correlate with it? And I realized that's what I do with day trading. It's like, it's a similar idea, is that I'm basing an idea of what I think the market's going to do. So I think we're going to chop for the first few hours of the day today because we opened inside the previous day's range. So I go into the morning already. I don't have to think about chop. I don't have to worry about chop. I just know that's what the market's going to do. And then I can instead try to poke holes in my theory. Right? So if we wouldn't have found support here, that would have poked a hole in my theory. If we would have had good taper at the high, that would have poked a hole in my theory. So it was just really interesting to me to realize that I'm doing as a day trader what Bridgewater does as like a macro investor. But the way of it is the same. The principles, if you will. Okay, getting back through the opening price should trigger us repairing this week J period high up here at 36.43. Once we repair that, we should be able to get above the overnight high. And then we'll see, do we have new buyers up there? The overnight high is at 36.4650. BBQ. I don't know if it was mentioned, but Tony Robbins had a pretty good interview with Dalio. That was the original combo that got me into investing, believe it or not. If anybody's interested in hearing the story, I first got into investing because I got like the first job I ever had where they offered me a 401k. And like the woman from HR was like, how do you want to set up your 401k? And I was like, I don't know what that is. I have no idea what a 401k is or how to set it up. And she was like, well, I can't tell you what to do because that would technically be financial advice and I'm not legally allowed to do that. She was like, but take a day or two, do some research and let me know. And then I started researching, what is a 401k? Like I just Googled what is a 401k? And prior to that, I didn't even know regular people could invest in the stock market. It sounds silly, but I thought it was like only rich people could do it. Anyways, long story short, in that Googling, in that searching, one of the videos that caught my attention was Tony Robbins, of all people, who's like a motivational speaker, talking about a book he had just written called Unshakable. And so I bought the book to learn about markets, and that was the first book that I ever read. And a big part of that is him talking about Ray Dalio's all-weather strategy. So that's what got me into Ray Dalio. So there you go. Full circle. Here I am. 6 years later? Tyson, full time when the lockdowns happened for COVID. Okay, this resistance is quite interesting. We should be able to repair that weakness at 36.43. So if we sell off back down below the opening price right now, that would be bearish. As we would have good taper and a when what should happens doesn't. All right, so the market pulling back down below the open is a little bit bearish. We'll see if they can get a bounce on the half back at 36.30. If not, I expect the chop to come right back down looking for support. Screwball 2 exact. Yeah, I mean, it is weak. Okay, so we're testing the halfback here at 36.30. Can it hold to head back up and repair that weak high? If not, we're probably heading down towards 3600s. Looking for support there. And BBQ, my trading PC bit the dust last week, so hopefully I get a new one built in the next few days. First time building in about 20 years. Yeah, things have changed. All the parts are the same, but man, they're so much more powerful. Tyson. So it took about 4 years. No, I mean, I'll briefly tell my story. Everybody's already heard it before, but yeah, basically, so I used to just be like a hobbyist trader before COVID. I would get up in the mornings. I lived on on the West Coast, so I could, the day started at 6:30 a.m. So I would get up and day trade for the first couple hours of the day and then go to work every day. But then when the COVID lockdowns happened, I got fired from my job. And so I just decided, why not try to become a full-time day trader? And so I had a massive change at that point. Like my speed of learning completely changed because psychologically I started taking it seriously. You know what I mean? So yeah, I had about 4 years where I didn't know what I was doing and I was basically just gambling. But I wonder if I wouldn't have learned much faster if I'd had the pressure that I had in the lockdowns of feeling like I need to make this a job. As opposed to like, this is just something I'm doing for fun on the side. And I also think if you're asking yourself, like, what should be your goal for how long it should take you to get profitable, you can't use other people as an example because everyone's different. There's guys who are market wizards that make a fortune that it took them 7-8 years to become profitable. What I always tell people, if you're asking yourself whether you should keep going or not, the question is, how adaptable are you? Are you always learning? Are you always getting better and better? If so, keep going. You'll get there. But if you find that you keep doing the same things over and over and you can't change, then probably trading isn't for you. And you should consider not sacrificing years of your life, Adaptability is really what's important, not time. Scooball, the buyers are trying. What will they get for it? It's a great point. They bought the halfback. They want to try to repair that weak reference. Can they do it? And if they don't, will they buy it halfback again? Or will they let that sucker crash and burn? Okay, so here you go. They bought half back last time and they got nothing for it, right? They bought here and they only pushed it to here. Are they going to buy again? How many times are they going to keep buying this when they get nothing for it? John Lash says, don't set hard time frames because if you start getting close to your time to become profitable, it will affect your mental game. You will start rushing trades to become profitable. You don't want that. Yeah, the amount of like what becoming successful as a trader really is just fooling your own brain is shocking. Like we all think it's about learning to read the market. It's really not. It's about learning to trick your own brain into not doing what it wants to do. So if not trying to turn this into a career and just doing it for fun allows your brain to relax, that's probably the best thing. All right, so half back breaking increases the odds. We need to pull back down, looking for buyers at a lower price. Right? If we didn't have the buyers here to go higher, we probably got to pull it down and look for buyers down here. The chop continues. Ray, can you explain that must be the PMI or whatever. Can you explain the horizontal rectangle on the overnight? Yeah, that is the closing price. So the green rectangle is where the overnight closed. The green dot is where we opened. It just makes it very easy to see the way the market moves. So they opened down here, green dot, they closed, green rectangle. It was net long. Okay, well, this news is creating volatility. That volatility got a repair of the week high, but created another one. Is that two? Okay, so now what we're looking for, now that they were able to get above the overnight high, can they push above there again and find support? Can they start to bring in new buyers up there? If not, we expect it to pull back in and the chop to continue. If we can find support here, we can get bullish to try to test yesterday's high. Friday's high. Another week high. Man, it's emotional this morning. Short covering straight into weak sellers. Gino, PMI report slightly worse than expected. But was that expected? Were they expecting it to be worse than expected? Did they price it in being worse than expected ahead of time? Jeremy Jones, there's no such thing as objectively bad or good for market of irrational humans. Exactly. That's the point I'm making. When you say good or bad PMI numbers, what does that even mean? Because you could say they're bad and the market could go up. You could say they're good and the market could go down. It's not the numbers that matter. It's the reaction. And there's no way to predict that ahead of time. Johnny, try learning to trade in Australia. I got a package. All right, guys. Well, that was a bonsai tree that was supposed to be delivered to me on Friday, and I've been worried about it all weekend, sitting on a delivery truck. So I'm just going to run downstairs and grab it. I'll be right back in 2 minutes. I would say this is a little bit bullish. We pushed above the overnight high, and we're bringing in buyers above the overnight high. So that's a little bit bullish here to potentially head up and test like 36.80, looking for resistance there. I'll be back in just a minute. All right, false alarm. It was just Amazon. Seven Mile. This one's a juniper, but I've got a bunch. Chris, am I going full Zen? I've collected bonsai trees for years. I'm Zen AF, dude. All right, well, we got more new buyers at the high, so this is bullish to head up and test yesterday's high. So I would say I remain bullish as long as we remain above the overnight high. If we pull down below 36.44, I will be back to neutral, looking for more chop. But if they can hold it above the overnight high here, they can head up and test yesterday's high. Am I caught up on the Karate Kid series? Ironically, it was the original Karate Kid movie that made me interested in bonsai, but I don't like the series. I know everyone else does, but I find it boring. Johnny, testing also the previous bounce area low? That's a good question. Yeah, we're right at that level. But like I said, for me, I'm keeping it very simplistic at this moment, just thinking about it as an auction process, right? If there are buyers who are willing to buy above the overnight high, they're looking to take the market somewhere new, right? They're not buying. Let me zoom out a bit here. They're not buying above the overnight high just because they think it's going to poke up a little bit and come right back down. If there's new buyers up here, it's because they think the market is moving higher. So I should think at the very least we'd be able to test yesterday's high, and then we'll find out if there's real momentum there. Yes, overnight high broke, but Friday's high is a long way off. Yep. The best opportunities are often the riskiest. This goes back to the conversation I had about Bridgewater earlier. It's like, I'm not going to question whether we're finding support above the overnight high. I see we're getting buyers up here, and I know what that means. If they find buyers above the overnight high, they're heading to test whatever the next major resistance is above. I guess you could actually argue it's right here. And so I'll just trust that and look for something, how can I poke holes in this? How can I be wrong? And that is, of course, if this support doesn't hold. Oh, while we're just waiting around for the market to do something, good opportunity to make a couple of announcements here. First off, tomorrow we have Bruce from Bookmap. He is like the official educator from Bookmap. He's going to come on the stream at 2 p.m. tomorrow. So we're going to do it like an FOMC stream. I'll come back to the public stream here on the YouTube so everyone can join us. Something to keep in mind for 2 p.m. tomorrow if you want to have a conversation about Bookmap. Oh, also, I want to remind everybody about Book Club. So if you like books, if you like to read books, you like trading, and you like talking to other humans about the books that you read about trading, you should join Traders Book Club. There's a link, if you just scroll all the way down towards the bottom of the description, there's a link there to tradersbookclub.com. You just put in your email address, and you're in. You got a month. The next meeting is the last Wednesday of October, and the book this month is a classic, a must-read for every trader, and that is The Black Swan by Nassim Taleb. Nap. Come on, buyers. You can do it. Run, buyers. Run. Mama always said buyers above the overnight high is bullish. And maybe I can catch the movie Black Swan when it comes out. There's a great one called The Big Short. Geo, can you go over why chop below 36.42? Yeah, sure. So again, I'm always, you know, looking at a market and trying to figure out what is it doing, right? What is it trying to do here? The market's always on some kind of mission for the day. It's trying to accomplish something. And so I'm asking myself, what is it trying to do? And there's generally three options. It's either trying to go higher, it's trying to go lower, or it's trying to go sideways. It just wants to bounce around in a range for the day. And so I have little clues, little signals that I use to kind of give me insights along the way on which of those three things is it trying to do. Is it trying to go higher, lower, or sideways? So when it opened inside the previous day's range, right? It opened up inside of Friday's range where we traded. The first thought that goes through my head is it wants to chop. It just wants to go up and down and grind around in a range and decide where it's going to go. So in the beginning, I assume it wants to go sideways. So what's the first hint to me that it might not want to go sideways? It might want to go higher. Well, can it get above the overnight high? So once I see the market push above that overnight high, I'm now asking myself, wait a minute. Is it still chop? Are we still going sideways, trying to decide where we want the market to go? Or have we just decided we want to take the market higher? So then I say to myself, okay, how do I confirm this? Well, I would find support here at the overnight high. The market would push above and it would come back down. And when I saw those buyers getting in, then I know, yep, the market's trying to go higher, right? Well, today it didn't even give us that chance. It pushed higher and then it built up support at a higher price. It built up support up here. So that was the confirmation for me that the market is trying to go higher, right? So now I'm looking, if the market's above the overnight high and it's trying to go higher, where is it probably going to go? Well, the next stop is yesterday's high. So let's see what happens when we get there. The answer is right now the market is trying to go higher, and yesterday's high will tell us whether they're doing a good job of it. If they get up there, run out of steam, and pull right back down, well, then they're not doing a very good job of it. And that tells me the market's not going to be able to go higher today. So that tells me it's probably going to go sideways. Whereas if it's able to get above yesterday's high, it comes back down and it finds support there. New buyers once again, the message is it's trying to go higher and it's doing a good job of it. So then I could look for it to head up to the opposite end of balance, which is the next stop, right? So that's basically, it's like signposts along the way. You know, you're on the highway right here. That's the exit for higher prices. Okay, so the market got off on that exit. And now let's see if we just turn around and get right back on the highway, or if we continue looking for the next sign, you know, turn left on this road or whatever to keep going. So if at every moment in your head, you see a reason the market could go up, you see a reason the market could go down, and you see a reason the market could go sideways, you don't have to waste any time trying to guess which it's doing. All you must do is focus on if it's following the things you would expect to see if it were going up, down, or sideways. Al, is yesterday's value area high considered support? No, I don't really ever look at value areas as support or resistance. Um, I know some traders do. I don't see them that way. I just see them in comparison to other value areas. Is value higher or lower than the previous day? Um, but not support resistance. The Shaw. Thank you, brother. He says 212 people watching. Press that like button so the stream gets suggestions for other people. I agree. If you enjoy what you see, why not share it with other people? They might enjoy it too. And all you got to do is push that like button, and then YouTube will do the work for you. All right, so we have printed the C period here, and we've left a bunch of single prints behind from the B period. So that increases the odds that the market will try to pull back and backfill some of these single prints. If they find support anywhere in the single prints, that is bullish. Or if they find support at the base, that is bullish. But if we start to pull back down into the A period, so pull down below 43, then things get a little more choppy, a little more bearish. But for now, I remain bullish. Looking for support. We also just left a poor high behind, increasing the odds. Once we find support, we're going to come back and repair that poor high. Unfortunately, I can't tell you what's going to happen beyond Friday's high. We may completely run out of bids there and fall right back down. So we'll just have to wait and see. But if they can find support above 36.85, that is bullish for continuation to the upside. With that, I will say goodbye to you. Goodbye. And I'll see you here tomorrow. If you're a member of the brigade, I will see you in the private stream. Let's roll.